Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I am Joy Francis, your life, love, and relationship coach. Thank you for joining me. Separated, divorced, and or with kids. It's a very relevant subject, but it is one that we have to approach with care. Let's start off with separated. If you are planning on dating somebody who is separated and on their way to getting a divorce, I mean, I don't want to tell you not to do it, but it's best if you really give it some serious thought because it obviously depends on the person and what they're going through and how their spouse is and how their spouse is treating the whole situation. And now you're like the third wheel coming into this. There is a lot of emotions that are still haven't been dealt with. Essentially, they're technically still married. And in most cases, the people involved haven't necessarily dealt with what's coming. The whole idea of separation, signing the divorce papers, making everything final. And then if kids are involved, that just adds a whole other level of complexity on top of everything. And if you are someone that is in this position, before you decide to date, I strongly recommend that you figure out everything that's going on, your emotions, how you're going to feel when it's finally over, the ease of your partner signing these papers and making this process. Because, in at least in my experiences, I've come across people and against my better judgment, have given them the benefit of the doubt. And this is why I've learned these things. But I've given them the benefit of the doubt. And then even within talking to them, there were days that they would just come to me and say, "Hey, listen, you know what? I'm dealing with so much stuff today. Like I can't even talk to you, if that's okay." And obviously you want to give people their space when they need it, but that is not someone that is ready to enter another relationship, not at a serious level at least. And that's assuming if that's even what they want. Because again, leaving a marriage and being separated, you're used to a certain lifestyle and they could be doing things out of fear because now they're not going to have someone there all the time. So they're essentially looking for a replacement. The whole idea of the rebound. Now you have to ask yourself, do you want to be that rebound person? Because you're like the rebound person of all rebound people because they're getting divorced. And these are the things and the emotions and the feelings that these people need to go through and figure out prior to getting themselves into a serious relationship. So I strongly caution anyone that is dating someone that is separated that you take a lot of care and be very self-aware of everything that's going on in that scenario. As for people who are divorced, again, with or without kids, kids always adds that level of complexity, right? But divorce is a little bit easier, obviously, than separation because most of it's been dealt with already. They're free, they're clear, they're open to new things. And obviously, it depends on how much time has passed during the separation and divorce, as well as how long they've been divorced for. Because at that point, they couldn't be, like anyone else, ready to meet people and put themselves in a position to find what they're looking for long term. Here's the other thing. Now, it obviously depends on the people because there are those that have gotten married at a younger age and may have missed the whole idea of what dating is actually like. And not to mention the fact that even if they have dating experience from the past, the landscape has changed enormously since then, however long ago that must be. So you might have to take some care. And if you are one of these divorced people listening to this, hi, I recommend you listen to the first couple of episodes of this podcast and you really figure out what your goals are when it comes to dating and relationships, what you're looking for, et cetera, et cetera. And I obviously go through with it in all the earlier episodes of the podcast. So you do need to obviously have some caution because these people could still be hurt, can still be carrying around some sort of animosity to the opposite sex. And again, you need to be self aware. Now, obviously, these issues can happen with anybody that's been in a relationship before, anybody that's dated before can have very similar issues. Just, having that moniker of being divorced obviously lends to you have gone through something, and obviously something quite severe because you dated someone, you loved them, you married them, may or may not have had kids with them, and now you've separated from them and divorced them. And that can play a role on how someone acts within a relationship, depending on how all that went. So you kind of have to be self-aware and, figure out where someone is and their feelings towards relationships and their feelings towards the opposite sex and their feelings towards things like trust and communication. So really, really be aware of these things. I'm not telling you not to divorce people because that's absurd. I mean, again, as we get older, more and more people are put into this situation and it could be us. So no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying is that you need to be very careful. And obviously that goes for anybody that you start talking to, but be careful and try to figure out whether somebody is ready for this. And depends again on what you're looking for, what they're looking for, et cetera, et cetera. Because if it's a matter of being divorced, getting yourself back out there and learning what they want, trying to figure out what's changed about them and their needs and their wants, then it's understandable. But then it goes back to being completely transparent and communicative because communication is literally everything. Now there's the part with or without kids, because let me tell you, if you don't know this already, if you are planning on dating anybody with kids, you need to realize you will never be number one. Never, never, ever. You will always be number 2 or 3 or 4, depending on how many kids they have. And you have to be okay with this. And I know there's a lot of people out there that think they can be okay with it, but they're most definitely not. I've spoke to these people where they tell me that it seems unfair that the kids are getting all the attention. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. That's life. And you have to accept that. You have to accept that going into this because first of all, there's the time constraint. People with kids most definitely have less time. And if you think about how busy your life is, whether you have kids or not, but let's just imagine you don't, and you figure out how busy your life is with work and friends and family and, your extracurricular activities and all these other things. Now you have to add in taking care of another human being, which trumps all of it. It trumps everything. So someone with kids is not going to be at your beck and call. It's not going to be able to be spontaneous with you for the most part. And obviously that's depending on their schedule and depending on the split between them and their spouse watching the kids and, custody and all this other stuff. And that's just a fact. Also, the age of the kids matter because as kids get older, parents usually have a little bit more free time because the kids kind of do things on their own. So that's also something you might want to consider when looking for someone and being okay whether they have kids or not. If people have young kids, again, I recommend that they probably don't date. That they should literally focus on themselves and their kids' lives until their kids are somewhat old enough to understand what's going on. Because if you're leaving your young kids um, with babysitters or whatever to go on a date, that's not cool. I mean, I get it. You need your time and it's understandable, but you're bringing someone into this and they may not understand, sorry, that your free time is less than limited. It's almost non existent. And then wanting to leave the kids with somebody while you go on a date may seem okay here and there, but it's not something that you're going to be able to do all the time. It's not something you're wanted to do all the time. And granted, if you have shared custody with your ex spouse, that might alleviate things and give you some more time, which understandable. But even then, your kids still require so much love and attention that you probably shouldn't be sharing that with strangers. That's my opinion. Obviously, you're free to do as you wish, but please, 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 please keep your kids in mind and keep them number one. Myself, I've been in situations where talking to someone with kids and the babysitter canceled. Now, I'm an understanding person. They called me. They're like, hey, listen, I unfortunately don't have a babysitter. So we're going to have to cancel. And it's like, yeah, okay, cool. No problem. We can reschedule. It's perfectly fine. But then she proceeded to say to me, why don't you just come over and watch the kids with me? That's a big negative on my part. No, thank you. I do not want to be introduced to somebody's kids so early on. And I don't think that the people you date so early on should be introduced to your kids, or people that you haven't met yet really should be invited to your house where your kids live and sleep. I don't think I need to tell you why, but if you need me to, send me a message and I'll tell you why. You just need to understand that unfortunately this is the way things go. And I'm going to tell you a story that I actually heard today. So there's a couple, they've been together for 2.5 years, give or take, and they live together. It is the house of the guy, let's call him John, and the woman, let's call her Jen. They obviously living together. Jen is paying John some rent money or helping out, however you want to see it. John has a couple of kids, and over the course of the 2 years and more recently, there's been some issues with the kids not cleaning up after themselves and Jen having to do it. And then Jen mentioning to John, like, hey, listen, like, I don't want to police your kids. Like, do you think you can talk to your kids to tell them to keep their spaces a little cleaner? And essentially, John gets angry and says, it's my house and I will do things my way. And Jen doesn't really know what to do. So she tried, obviously, again, talking to John about this, and he doesn't want to have any part of it. He's not interested in listening. But now we're getting to a point where one of John's kids, she is a 14-year-old girl, is essentially going online to these online chat rooms and apparently flashing other guys online and has taken up smoking and is leaving her, let's say, used feminine products all filthy all over the floor and such. Now, Jen, being very diplomatic, approached her and said, hey, listen, this is very unsanitary and you should probably think about cleaning it up. And if you want, I'll give you a hand. I'll help you clean it up. And obviously the daughter wants to have nothing to do with her or her suggestions. And she essentially pushes her away. So, what ends up happening is Jen is now in a position where she doesn't know what to do. And I've mentioned to her that she should definitely talk to John and sit him down and in the least confrontational way possible explain the situation that's going on. The smoking, the flashing people online, and the used feminine products on the floor, because these are all dangerous things. Some more than others. Smoking, I mean, come on. We all know smoking's bad for you. And obviously, I would hope that he cares enough to not want his daughter to take up smoking. Flashing people online, I mean, that's just a given. These are things that you should not be doing. Despite your rebellious phase, you have to have a heart to heart talk with her. And if she needs help, therapy is always an option as well. But this type of rebellious behavior should definitely not be acceptable. She could be potentially screwing up her own future and then leaving dirty feminine products around. I mean, come on, guys. It's just disgusting, and beyond unhygienic. And I don't know the outcome of this, but obviously, she is going to talk to John and figure out, hopefully, a solution to this problem. Now, I tell you this story because this illustrates exactly what it's like when you're dealing with someone who's divorced and with kids. And now you're put into a position of essentially zero authority, but you're also meant to have authority, but yet you have none anyways. And it's very tough. And at the end of the day, it's like, what are you going to do? So there's that. Now, for the people out there that are extremely jealous, and you know who you are. And if you don't, I'm sure if you think about it, you'll figure it out. There's another aspect to dealing with divorced people, especially those with kids, is that the divorcees are going to have to communicate and co-parent. And for those who are jealous, some of them might have problems with this. Again, people have come to me with this exact problem. I've heard this from multiple people. It's not even just one set of people. It's multiple people that come to me, with questions about they're talking, they're doing this, they're doing that. And obviously the majority of things that they're doing are to co-parent their kids, in which you should keep your dirty little nose out of it and let them do their thing. But yet they're jealous. I don't know what they're jealous of. They're jealous of their exes having time with them. They're jealous of their exes communicating with them. Because at the end of the day, they're just trying to co-parent. If they wanted to get back together, I'm pretty sure they weren't waiting for you to start dating one of them for them to be like, you know what? Now's a good time for us to get back together. Let's screw over the people we're dating. And let's forget the fact that we were separated and divorced and had lawyers and, went back and forth. Let's forget all of it and just get back together. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. The whole point of, especially in this country, in Canada, where I live, people have to be separated before they can be divorced. You can't just go and get a divorce. You have to be legally separated for an amount of time. I don't know exactly what that amount is. I think it's a year. But you have to be legally separated before you can get a divorce. So, if in that time, that year, that is literally meant for you to contemplate getting a divorce and contemplate this marriage and contemplate what's going on, and if you think that they haven't figured out in this time whether they want to be apart or not, and then they end up getting separated and divorced, and then they meet you, there's no reason for you to be jealous. Because the thing is, For the kids' sake, the co parenting parents need to love each other, show each other an immense amount of respect, and do things as essentially best friends for the kids' sake, so that kids can see, hey, listen, you know what? Sometimes we may put ourselves in a position of a relationship that doesn't necessarily work for us. That doesn't mean that the other party is bad. That doesn't mean that we should treat them ill. It means that we respect them. It means that we love them as the parent of our kids, and we treat them that way. And it's separate from our dating and other relationships. And in situations, that almost has to come first, again, for the sake of your kids, because your kids are number one. And I shouldn't have to stress that point enough. And I understand not every divorce is going to be so, kumbaya and so easy and so friendly. But you should do your best to try to make it that way. And I know it can be hard because not every spouse is willing to play ball, so to speak. But nonetheless, if you are someone that is dating someone who's divorced and has kids, respect the relationship they have with their ex. Do not get involved. Do not complain. It is very minimal compared to the amount of time and love that this person has for you. Sit back and be understanding, because I'm going to tell you right now, if you are not, and you stick your nose where it doesn't belong, your relationship's not going to last very long. You're going to create animosity, because depending on which side of it you are, whether you're the guy dating a divorced woman or a girl dating a divorced man, you could be putting your partner in not a good place. Just, to say the least of it. It could cause problems with their ex. It could cause problems with lawyers and courts and money and other things. So if you are in this position, mind your own business, have nothing to do with it, stay back and let them do their thing. Okay? If that person happens to come to you and ask for your advice, that's a different story. If they want to talk about it with you, that's a different story. But if it's bothering you, that's a you problem. You cannot go to them and say, hey, listen, I think you're talking to your ex too much. Or I think that you have too much of a friendly relationship with your ex. That's not for you to say. If you don't like it, get out. Don't even be with that person. You're too jealous. Go home, figure out, why you're jealous. Figure out your insecurities. Because that is one relationship that you should never be jealous of. And again, this is something that I've seen multiple times where, granted, women having issues with their boyfriends who are divorced, and their boyfriends having a good and healthy relationship with their ex-wives, yet the girlfriend does not approve. And again, the guy in these couple of situations, the guy tries to comfort her and, tell her like, hey, listen, it's nothing. Don't worry about it. If you want to see everything that goes on between us, I'll show you. And tries his best, to the point that he even talks less to his ex-wife, which is ridiculous because the only thing they talk about is their kids. And it puts him in a bad position of almost being a not informed father of what's going on in his kids' lives, because he chooses not to talk to his ex because his girlfriend doesn't want it. That's not for you to intervene. Stop it. If you are jealous of the relationship an ex has with their kid's mother or father, then you should not be involved with that person. And you should figure out your insecurities and figure out why this is making you jealous. You don't belong there. But That's just my opinion. I think we should just leave it there. Believe I've given you some insight on dating people that are separated or divorced and with or without kids. Granted, if somebody's divorced and has no kids and they continuously talk to their ex, I would probably question it, to be quite honest with you. If we're just covering all the scenarios, I would probably question it because that one seems a little bit odd. Unless they're still dealing with, investments and money things that they had together. But aside from that, I can't think of any reason why two divorced people would continue. And I mean, unless they're friends, but that's, if you're not good with it, that's for you to decide. I still think that one's even it's a little bit off. It's a little bit different, let's say. It can most definitely happen where people get divorced and stay great friends because they realized that they were friends from the beginning and not good as husband and wife. But that's going to be something for you to decide. And at the end of the day, people are who they are and you have to accept them for that. So if it's something that bothers you, then it's not where you should be and you should probably find somebody else. So thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I actually managed to get a good, 26 minutes. Not bad. If you, by any chance, have a question for me and or an idea for the podcast, feel free to email me at joeyfrances@gmail.com. And or you can visit my website and send me a message through there, as well as pick up my books, my self-help books. Shameless plug. That's www.joeyfrances.com. Again, I honestly really appreciate you. Thank you for watching. And remember, love yourself first and confidently choose what's best for you. Till next time. What do you think of that one? Do you think that's a good tagline? I think that's going to be the tagline. Let me know. I'll see you next time.